Bringing us to the start of the news review segment, Benjamin, who's joining us?
Well, our usual, I nearly said culprit, but no, he's not a culprit.
No.
Our usual third musketeer, because when the two of us are here, he joins us and he makes it lit. I'm talking about political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asante. Doc, good morning. Doc, can you hear me, please?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I believe that is Professor Lord Mensah of the University of Ghana Business School. Prof, good morning. Good
morning, sir, and good morning to our viewers out there.
Prof, please call me Ben. This is too hard for the morning. Dr. Asan Asante, can you hear us? Just to confirm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sweetie Amochi, would you like to answer the
my good friend.
Yes,
how
Prof.
are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Prof, yourself?
Very well, very well.
Yeah.
Very well.
Good to see and hear from you.
Yes. That's right.
All right, Doc and Prof. Usually before we get into the newspapers on the news review, we give our guests a minute or two to walk us through any topical issue they want to reflect on. But I'll start with Professor Lord Mensah because we've not had your news review before. So give us your 2 minutes take on what's on your mind.
Yeah, very well. I know IMF is in town as far as the economy is concerned. Clearly, they're still going to look at the indicators that will take us through the next level. I mean, whether they're supposed to release the next tranche or not. And obviously, if you look at what is happening on the grounds, I mean, in numerical sense, we will say that, yes, of course, the economy in the last quarter has grown about 6.9%. And then we're looking at also the stability, relative stability, let me emphasize on relative stability, in the exchange rate, because the rate of depreciation before the last IMF visit, has improved compared to, what we have now. So effectively, I would say that, yes, indeed, they are in town. I've already predicted that they're going to pass us, I mean, as far as the assessment is concerned. But then also what I foresee that the possibility may affect, the outcome will be our debt negotiations. I mean, I think we've been slow in coming up with a clear and direct, terms that will determine the exact, debt that we're supposed to service, I mean, going forward. And as a country, if you don't know exactly what kind of liability you are holding, and then, how it fits into your budgeting, it really affects you. And the investors sitting out there will obviously look at the uncertainty that is clouding, as far as, the economy is concerned. So it doesn't give confidence to investors. I mean, if we're not certain on the kind of debt we're supposed to service. And from where I sit, I think those are the things that comes up mind. Apart from that, we're looking at the political aspect of it, which my brother Asante will do justice to that.
So, Doc, let me throw that to you. Dr. Asante, from IMF, what would be your take?
I think I'll move straight away to politics. Prof knows that is the fertile grounds for me. Right. I want to look at the NDC protest and the way they want to take it to another level. Protests are important in every democracy. Like it or not, we are going to have it at all times, but provided they are done within the framework of the law. If you look at the NDC, they have, protested and then continue to protest within the framework of the law. What are they asking for? For forensic audits. And if you look at the conversation, there has been a battle between the two. NDC saying that there are anomalies associated with the electoral role, for which reason we need to clear that and create that enabling environment for all political actors to act and perform the work that is required of them. EC initially said no, but when they were hit with the truth with the evidence. They checked out and then accepted that that is true. Now NDC is taking the conversation further that in order to address these lingering challenges, let us what? Do a forensic audit. Right. EC said, no. I am at sea to understand where is this coming from. Let us remember that one of the ingredients for free and fair election is to have a roll of voters which is clean, which is transparent, and which has been verified and accepted by all the political actors. So if you exhibit an electoral roll and some political party said, we found nothing, but somebody said, yes, I found something, you must be graceful and then, accept that. Then they bring the evidence to you and then you work with it. For the Electoral Commission, I am struggling to understand why they will not allow for the forensic audit, because at the end of the day, if this audit is done and there are anomalies, it will be cleared. If there is nothing like that, we will still have the register intact. What is important, which must be understood by many, is the fact that when the register is clean and up to scratch, it gives confidence and it allows everybody to compete with a renewed hope, right? So I will appeal to EC to soften their grounds and look at all the conversations and then sit down and then with the political party NDC to be able to do this exercise. It doesn't take anything away from them. Okay. Unless, of course, they want to say that there is something that they want to hide from us, which I don't believe so. So I believe that in fairness and in order to strengthen the frontiers of our democracy, I want the EC to reflect on it, accept that forensic audit. It will in their best interest to do that, because at the end of the day, if the register is foolproof, it will enhance the credibility of the election and it will go as a credit to the Electoral Commission. So they must reason and take wise counsel for us to move on.
Okay, reason and take wise counsel, because everyone is saying the same thing. If you have nothing to hide, open up the register and let's see the corrections that you have made, because it's important. Let's get straight into the newspaper. Benjamin, do you have any reflections, or should we get straight into it?
No, let's get into it.
Okay, I'll start with the Daily Guide newspaper. On the front page, Akufo-Addo receives Global Citizen Award. And we see a photo of President William Ruto of Kenya presenting the award to President Akufo-Addo. 39 NDC protesters caged. Remove 584 voters from Asia South court orders. And TLF marks World Peace Day with a health walk. FWSC clarifies, that is the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, clarifies CLOSAG concerns, calls for dialogue. Let me start with the story on page 3. I'll just read a brief part of it, because we've all been following the story, and in fact the release of some others also held in police custody and prison custody. I thought the semantics over there left much to be probed, but let me get straight into it. 39 persons arrested in connection with unlawful demonstration against illegal mining at 37 Hospital in Accra, which turned violent, have been remanded into police and prison custody for 2 weeks. The accused persons, who were part of the demonstration organized by a group calling itself Democracy Hub, known to be affiliated with the National Democratic Congress, have been charged with conspiracy to commit crime, namely unlawful assembly, causing unlawful damage, offensive conduct conducive to breach of peace, assault on public officer, and defacement of public property. And again, I'm asking, how do we know that all these 39 persons are NDC protesters who've been caged? I want to do 2 more stories in addition to this, and I'll come to you, Prof. and Doc, for your reflections. Fair Wages and Salaries Commission stories on page 6, and it talks about the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission clarifying concerns raised by Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, that's CLOSAG, over the migration of approximately 900 members onto the Ghana Technical and Vocational Education and Training Service, that is GTVET, salary structure without their consent. And according to the FWSC, in a letter dated October 11th, GTVET submitted a new scheme of service and requested the FWSC to develop and migrate its staff onto a new single spine grade structure. This request followed the passage of the Pre-Tertiary Education Act 2020, and which amalgamated all pre-tertiary technical and vocational education and training institutions, including GLOSAC-affiliated entities, into the GTVET scheme. What I find interesting here, let me just read that quote. Some of the GLOSAC-affiliated entities are social welfare institutes and community development vocational technical institutes and government technical institute, the statement read. But I was trying to get to where the controversy really is. Okay, so following the payment of new salaries in August 2024, GLOSAC executives complained to the Minister of Employment, Labor Relations and Pensions, Ignatius Bafwewa, about some members of the association being made worse off. And the chief executive of the Fair Wages, Benjamin Arthur, immediately arranged a meeting with GLOSAC to address the concerns, but it appears those concerns have yet to be addressed. The last story I want to do in the Daily Guide newspaper is on the president receiving an award which was presented to him by William Ruto of Kenya. President Akufo-Addo has made an impassioned plea to fellow world leaders to reform United Nations Security Council, emphasizing its outdated... no, this is a different story. Beg your pardon. Let me find that story here. Yes, so President Akufo-Addo has been honored with the coveted 2024 Atlantic Council Global Citizen Award at the prestigious Ziegfeld Ballroom in New York City. And the event, held on September 23rd, honored President Akufo-Addo alongside an array of distinguished global figures, including Greek Prime Minister, Italian Prime Minister, and Korean media pioneer Mickey Lee. Each of these trailblazers was recognized for their outstanding contributions to global peace, democracy, and human development. These three stories for your quick reflections. I'll start with you, Professor Lord Mensah.
Yeah, so let me take the fresh one that you just read on the President's Award. Yeah, clearly, I mean, if the President receives an award, I would say it doesn't go to him as a person. Let me put it that way. It goes to the entire country. At least if you look at the indicators that were looked on, I mean, you're talking about peace, right? You're talking about political stability. You're talking about, you know, these are things that, you know, the Ghanaian citizen has come to embrace. And we should expect that, obviously, looking at the current situation in Ghana, if, you know, the citizens are not peaceful, I mean, the president will be projected on the world platform as we see now. I mean, that he's receiving an award, you know, to that effect. So I would say that, yes, it's indeed the president representing Ghana who has received the award, but the credit should be extended to the citizens of Ghana. You know, it's not every country that you're going to look at inflation numbers hitting, you know, 54%. You're going to look at, you know, I mean, things happening on the grounds, and you still get, you know, I mean, things working out and the people are peaceful going about their business, just embracing democracy, waiting for elections on the 7th of December to, you know, decide whether they would like to keep the current administration or not. So from where I sit, I think it's an award to the president, but, you know, the credit should be extended to the citizens of Ghana as well.
Points well made. Any of these other two stories? Quite briefly, and then I'll move to...
Yeah, so with the fair wages, you know, I think, you know, when you migrate workers onto a new platform, it is expected that, you know, you make them better. But to the extent that you migrate them, life becomes a problem, it's quite questionable. And I'm wondering the kind of parameters, the kind of indicators they looked on to do the migration. Because, I mean, this time that you have, you know, I mean, the disposable income, and I'm looking at the purchasing power of, I mean, your salaries being wiped out or on the market by price increase every now and then. You can't afford to be migrated onto, you know, a new system of compensation where your life turns out to be, you know, I mean, worse enough. Right. And I think it's not something that they may have to look at. So, from where I sit, I think, I mean, those in charge must really look at it and possibly address the issues.
And
as
really, that's the concern, that they've put these issues before the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and it appears no one is taking heed or listening to their pleas. And so they are hitting the street, well, not a demonstration, an industrial action. They have threatened to go on strike starting today. So let's wait and see how that also unfolds.
Yes.
Okay, let me move to Dr. Kwame Asante.
Yes, I will start with the Global Citizens Award that the president received. Kudos to the president for a good work done to receive such an award. But my problem is that, yes, the president is being given an award, but what about the citizens of this country? What is our criteria? Our criteria is found in the corruption that we see in the government. And evidence is already there in the figures of Transparency International and all that. The last bit of the present tenure, we want to see massive change. We want to see a conscious effort to dealing with these problems head on. The award is good, but we want to see how the problem of Galamsey is addressed head on. We want to give him an award based on the fact that he's been able to put his job online and then he's been able to fight the battle head on. We want to see that. We want to see our water bodies turn a new leaf, have clean conditions, and then we want to also have our forests intact. Not only that, we want to feel the growth of the economy in our pockets. All right, go to the market, and that is where the reality is. The figures may look good, but the ordinary man, what is the situation? And this, I believe that if he is able to do this, we will award him. And yes, he has to receive one outside, but our award will still wait and see that these and other considerations, if he's able to manage them, we are going to award him. This brings to sharp focus the book that Ali Mazrui wrote, that Nkrumah was the best president for Africa, but was another president for Ghana. I don't want my president to go on that tangent. And I believe that what he has received, we want to see the same here, so that we can award him something
what a day it would be for Ghanaians to award their president.
Yes,
I look forward to that
to
day.
award you is to be able to make sure that your legacy we rate you well, and then we make sure that we trumpet all your achievement and all that. And if the people feel so, important to also give your party the mandate, that is part of the extension of the award. And that I want to see from the performance of the government, because politics is nothing but contest of ideas and referendum of your work. Where is the president work in this area? We are looking forward to that. The issue of fair wages and salaries, and if you look at labor union problems and the rest of them, there is one thing which is missing from the equation. And what is it? That is a political officer. Where is that political officer in the NPP, where now you have a whole lot of problems coming up? 3 months or so to elections, you have all the labor unions up in arms against government on issue of Galamsey. 3 months to election, you have labor unions talking about conditions of service and broken promises and all that. If you have a political officer with his or her salt, you'll be able to look at these things and tell government that do this, do that, do this. Because the government, to be honest with you, is receiving bad press. And the issue is that who caused them? I would love to see a situation where government will reflect on these things and get those who can do the ABC of governance for them, so that they will be able, the last hurdle that they have, they will be able to manage it well and cross the Rubicon.
Thank you so much, Doc and Prof. Benjamin, let's do your paper now.
Well, let's get into the Ghanaian Publisher newspaper. Beware of Mahama, Minister cautions nursing students. That's an interesting one. Asensi Boakye optimistic about Abidjan-Lagos highway project. Zambian Energy Board in Ghana to study MPA's operations. And, well, those are the stories I will get into. Let me start with the main one, the Ghanaian Publisher there. Beware of Mahama, Minister cautions nursing students. So, Deputy Minister for Health, Honorable Alexander Akwesi Akwa. I always find it interesting the way we are so quick to honorabilize members of parliament and others, right from the bottom, and how we like to latch on to it. The story is told, especially for Dr. Kwame Asante. Let me just digress briefly. What's his name? Banredu. Yes. And I always say that he's one of those standout figures in the MPP for me. They say that this member of parliament, minister, there was an event and they had to sign. So he gets to the event and their names are supposed to be written. And the lady just writes his name, not Banredu, just writes the person's name. And this person raises a storm. Why did the lady write his name without adding honorable? Then, so the lady is shaken because this MP stroke minister has really given it to her. So when Banredu comes, she starts writing honorable. And he says, oh no, just write Asemesi Banredu. And it just tells you about the differences in, how many of our politicians think. You would see, I remember there was a time where, was it Obama, you would see him, he was holding the umbrella with his military aide or his aide-de-camp right by his side. But in Ghana, it's, we like unnecessary titles and respect. Useless stuff. I just had to add that. But Deputy Minister for Health, Honorable Alexander Akwesiakwa, has cautioned nursing students not to fall for the campaign promises of former President John Dramani Mahama, who cancelled the training allowance of their predecessors. The Deputy Minister pointed out that the National Democratic Congress administration that John Mahama superintended over also suspended nurses' recruitment from 2013 to 2016, leaving thousands of qualified nurses and midwives without jobs. His comments came in response to Mahama's recent claims that if elected, he would ensure prompt recruitment of nurses upon their graduation from college. And the Deputy Minister also says, in 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016, these cohorts of nursing trainees were not offered recruitment. They had no clearance. It's interesting. I don't want to go too much into these because, but I want to pick your brains, your thoughts on these matters. I want to start from there before I go to the next story. I'll start with you, Dr. Hassan Asante.
Yes, I will begin from where you ended, the self-glorification that we have in Ghanaian politics. I'm not surprised. If you have read the books of, General Okran, A Myth is Broken, the politics of the sword and all that. They talk about how Nkrumah, they glorify him, describe him in all manner of terms, Messiah, Ubrunisuru, Kantamanto, the dependable rock, and the rest of them. But Michael Quay has something which is worth considering, is that when all these things get into the mind of the political figures, they become swollen-headed, and it takes them off course. So politicians must be wary of this and then guard against this. That said, I want to look at the issue of, the topic that you touch on.
The nursing training.
Yeah, you're right. There is nothing wrong criticizing a previous regime for what they've done. And that if that person wants to offer him or herself for a political office, that argument can be brought to bear and all that. There's nothing wrong about that. But you will be able to do a good job when you are able to juxtapose it with what he has done in the area of that society that you want to lead. That, for me, is the million-dollar question that we need to answer. Yes, Mahama did his best. But if you look at what, in terms of economic figures and all that, compared to what we are experiencing and now, CD to dollar exchange rate, issue of the economy itself and the rest of them, you realize that the conversation is different from what people are talking about. And for me, that is what I want people to look at. That aside, we want to also look at what the waste within the political system. You can have all the resources.
Right.
My professor will tell you, if you have resources and you are not able to manage them, it comes to nothing. And our Auditor's General report is replete with financial waste and the rest of them. How far have we been able to deal with this and all that? So I believe that going forward, if we are talking about people like this, I expect that you put what they have done there. Because remember, I've said that politics is the contest of what? Your ideas. And then in addition to that, referendum of your work.
Right.
Show us what you have done in the area, this area and that. And when we compare, we'll be able to inform the people the better. So I believe that my good friend, the minister, and then my colleague journalist, he will look at some of these things and broaden the conversation so that all of us can have meaningful dialogue.
As someone will say in mathematics, show working. Tijani Isaka says,
Yes.
Good morning to you all. I'm just reading this because he sends it along the lines of this comment. He says, when is the unemployed allied health professional, or when are the unemployed allied health professionals going to receive news of recruitment? The batches not posted are from 2019 to 2023. It's very frustrating and disappointing. Well, Tijani, clarify for me. So allied health professionals, which one exactly are you? Is it a nurse or which one? I believe you're sending that in respect of the story I just did. Professor Lord Mensah, your take on that?
Yes, so basically I'll pick the honorable one first. I mean, where a title, needs to be added to someone's name before, for me, he feels important. I think there's more to being honorable, than, just having the title. Because even though when you go to parliament, more or less it's a way of buying yourself, that title. We have to look at, the output. I mean, what you bring on the table. I mean, for you to deserve, that title, so that it will be crowned on you everywhere you go. Not a matter of, calling it and putting fear on people. I mean, elsewhere, when you are, given a title, it is expected of you certain indicators. And if you're not living up to those expectations, I mean, obviously, you can be stripped of the title. But, we live in a country where once someone assumes, a title, in some cases, they don't even work for it. I mean, they just, receive the title, on silver platter, and they try to impose and use it to put fear, in people here and there. So from where I sit, your title should be able to match up with your output. And that is very, very important as far as, titles are concerned. You don't just claim something that, you're not living up to it. And in some cases, people are being tagged instead of, honorables, they are being tagged dishonorables. Because if you look at, political space, if I should make reference recently by the Honorable Haruna Idris making a reference that it's not even rewarding anymore to be in politics because, people are looking at politicians with different eyes altogether. And so they may have to live with that kind of expectation and not to, squeeze it out of people. The second one is nurses recruitment. Let's place dynamics on situations. You can't just, get up and say, beware of, former President Mahama, what he promises you by saying, he's going to, trigger nurses recruitment when he wins power. Every economic situation comes with different, demands. Let's look at, during, former President Mahama's time, we had joined an IMF program. And the IMF program, the main target was to reduce the wage bill, which is, non-discretionary, payment as far as government, expenditure lines are concerned. And as a result of that, you may have to look at, possibility of reducing the wage bill by making sure that those who, are more or less by default absorb onto the wage bill, hold on for some time for the economy to get better. And I think, if you look at the dynamics very well, and you compare those times, what was happening at the time, and now, I think it's better, we look at, what was happening at that time, being, under an IMF program and the requirement. We've been under an IMF program.
But aren't we under same now? We're under same now.
We are under same now, but the conditions are different now. We look at it carefully. The current IMF program, put pressure on the government to reduce wage bill, but then IMF did not come directly. The way we packaged the program to IMF, I don't know whether, the kind of things they want us to do is clearly, what will turn the economy around. Because as we speak now, we keep on receiving the inflows from the IMF, but the economy is not, picking as it's supposed to be. It's not taking shape as it's supposed to be. So it's the way we package the economy to IMF. The earlier one, we're able to give the IMF some of the details, some of the things we can do to ensure that we reduce the wage bill. And one of them is to stop recruiting. And so the government stopped recruiting nurses and all those just to keep the wage bill to the satisfaction of the IMF, conditions.
Right.
But then what we have now is not mainly, we presented, the macroeconomic, in a large scale to the IMF, telling them that if we reduce our debt, that is what will make us better by shifting, some of the possibility of difficulties that the government is supposed to absorb to the citizens, giving haircuts here and there, investment suffering here and there. Right. One way or the other, is that government doesn't want to accept, some of the things that will help us reshape the economy, but rather shifting it to the citizens. And it's the way the packages went about, and that is what will bring about the reduction in the what we call it, the number of nurses that are recruited every now and then. So it has to do with packaging. I mean, what we send to IMF and what they want us to implement. I remember every IMF visit, we have to package and tell IMF that. It's more or less like government, mismanaging the economy, and then, turning around, hiding behind IMF, for the IMF to come and impose what government wants to do to reshape the economy. Because without the IMF, the citizens may not accept it. Because, one way or the other, most governments had to hide behind, IMF to get things done. And so, if government packages and says, I have the ability to reduce, wage bill by, not employing nurses who have finished, their education, obviously it is expected that should be done. But the current IMF that we went to, we package ourselves by telling IMF that fine, we are not going to look at, the wages, but rather we're going to look at, debt payment. And these are all non-discretionary payment. Non-discretionary payment on the expenditure side of our budget. Right. So it has to do with the packaging and the concentration. Right. This current IMF, the emphasis was on debt. And the previous one, the emphasis on, on the wage bill. And so, obviously, for the discretionary expenditures, normally IMF, we don't tackle them so much because it's not, that rigid. But, it depends on the packaging and then how we present ourselves to IMF.
Right. Gentlemen, I'm not getting into these stories, but just the headlines. Asenso Wachi optimistic about Abidjan-Lagos highway project. And this one, sweetie. So Zambian Energy Board in Ghana to study NPA's operations. And a 7-member delegation from Zambia's Energy Regulatory Board has paid a 3-day working visit to the NPA. Do you know why I'm interested about this? You'll hear from time to time, people will come from other jurisdictions in Africa, Rwanda, other places, come and learn from us. Before you realize our system is in the doldrums, and they who came and copied from us are doing so well in other jurisdictions.
Last month,
always baffles my mind.
Last month, we had a group, was it Ethiopia or so, to come and understudy what we do here.
Understudy. Before we realize we are understudying them.
And it took us 3 days or 4 days to quench that fire at Makola. But I was just thinking, on a lighter note, Professor Lord Mensa, the packaging you're talking about, is that all we all do here in Accra? Everybody is packaging. But let me quickly...
that is how it's supposed to be, but it depends on what you place on your, the emphasis on the packaging.
Right. Let me just run through the stories on the front page of these papers and then we can wrap up. The Custodian, major boost for fishing industry as Baumia promises solar-powered outboard motors for fisher folks. Don't trust Mahama on nurses recruitment, according to Akwesi Akwa. Zambian Energy, the same story, Benjamin. Zambian Energy Board studies NPA's operations, and the story about presidents receiving that Global Citizen Award is also there. And the Daily Searchlight, responsible or irresponsible pledge, police courts for chiefs. And this is about Baumia promising to lump long-suffering economy with more expenditure. Achim Ayirebi's new dawn as Nana Sari, Diodu Jima III, takes the throne. And galleries saw view to reopen with a new exhibition for Africa Prime Initiative grant recipient. And then there's also that story about Zambian Energy Board and the studying NPA's operations. These are some other stories here that you can pick a copy of the newspaper for yourself and get into it. Benjamin, it's a wrap from my end.
The Accra Times, you are liars. Sami Gyamfi accuses pro-NPP media. Pictured there, there's former President Mahama, Sami Gyamfi himself, Mr. Benefson. There's also ECG's financial woes. ASEP blames politicians, says company not business-oriented. And then fallout from the University of Ghana's alumni lecture. Backbin weeps for Ghana over high attrition rate in Parliament. Those are the stories, the headlines. But I just want to wrap with, you know, the gentleman who was speaking for the allied health professionals. I asked him which one he was. He says, I am a disease control officer. He also says, remained unemployed for 3 years, but always renewing our licenses for every year, up to date. That's what he says. And that's, right, I guess, the story for a
Let's
number
give our guests a minute each or 30 seconds to give us a wrap of your thoughts quickly, and then we can go. Let me start with you, Dr. Asasante.
I will touch on the high attrition rate in Parliament. I am surprised that the Speaker is worried about this. You know, politics is that once you trigger a process, people get to Parliament, they perform, we maintain them in Parliament. They don't perform, we throw them out. So the attrition rate will continue to be part of the changing circumstances of our time. All that we want is that those who are put there will serve the interests of the people. Otherwise, we throw them into the lake of fire.
Okay. Professor Lord Mensah, take us home.
Yeah, so on the same issue, high attrition, I think we've opened up our democracy to everybody, and we are paying a price for it. As far as I know, I'm not a political studies expert, but, you know, democracy sometimes doesn't need to be open as it's supposed to be. And I will emphasize on this because of the kind of people we elect to Parliament. And the reason being that we've opened up democracy, and almost everybody can stand for, you know, Parliament as a parliamentary candidate, and without knowing or understanding what really happens on the Parliament floor. I can tell you, I've been in Parliament before. One time, you know, Joyce sent me there. At the point where budget was being read, you see some of the MPs hovering in the corridors here and there, and you wonder, you know, what they appreciate within the budget, whether they're really sitting in for their citizens indeed to make sure that things are done right or not. So effectively, it has to do with the caliber of people, the quality of the human resource that we have in Parliament. Very, very important. We need to take a critical look at it. But I won't blame anything because the politics is open and we don't have parameters limiting, you know, the kind of people that can go to Parliament.
Prof, thank you so much. Doc, thank you so much for joining us for breakfast. And we spoke to Dr. Kwame Asasante. He's a political scientist at the University of Ghana, and Professor Lord Mensah with the University of Ghana Business School. Many thanks for your time. Benjamin, let's get ready for sports.
Oh yeah, we're warming up. Warming up for sports.
Okay, dear.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, so this looks like the after news review conversation.
Yeah.
But we are taking you straight into sports. You want to stay for that?